FPL Game Week 23 is almost upon us, so in this video we're going to talk about Foden, Arsenal defence, Liverpool's double game week, and a few other players. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a player who's got 34 points in his last two game weeks, and that is obviously Phil Foden, who a lot of people are looking at bringing in this week. Now, he's got 0.31 expected goals per 90, 0.35 expected assists per 90, 6 goals, 3 assists in 13 starts. Those stats on paper are not bad, but the fact that he's only got 13 starts over the season just makes me not want to go near him. Like, can you guarantee that he's going to start the next 5? And even if he does start the next 5, those fixtures are not great. It certainly looks like City have turned a corner over the last few game weeks, but is that just because they've had nicer fixtures? And are they going to go back to being a bit inconsistent when they have tougher fixtures like they do over the next 5, 6, 7 games? I just don't know. To play devil's advocate, he has played a lot of minutes over the last 8. He's been taken off at the 60-minute mark in a couple of games, but for the most part, he has been playing 80 plus. But even with the minutes that he's playing, the fixture run is just not great, so I'll just move on to those. You've got Chelsea at home, which I think there are goals in that game for City, but I can't see them scoring 3 or 4. And is it guaranteed that Foden's even going to play that game? With the fact that I don't think City will score a lot, coupled that with the fact that I'm not even sure Foden's going to start, I just don't know. You got Arsenal away after that. That's going to be an absolutely terrible game for attackers. I know they just conceded 2 against Villa, but that Arsenal defence is a good defence. They are top of the league for expected goals against this season, even better than Liverpool, who have conceded less, but Arsenal's expected goals against is better. Newcastle's not an awful fixture for them because they are perhaps higher in the table than their expected points would suggest, but even so, you still wouldn't hand-pick that fixture. Liverpool at home, obviously we know how good Liverpool have been this season. It's not a great fixture for them. Then Spurs away. Again, that's good for an attacker, but they seem to be a bit of a bogey team for City, so you're not really sure how that game's going to go. But then you got Forest away and Brighton at home the next 2. It's just not... They're not fixtures that you would hand-pick over the next 7. And I just think Foden will be a good option at some point in the season, despite the fact he might get dropped in certain games. Not dropped, but benched and rested. But I just don't think that window's now. I think Game Week 30, the fixtures from then until the end of the season look really good for City. I just don't think the window's now. And so for that reason, I'm just not going near him. Okay, so let's move on to Gabriel and just Arsenal defence in general, who have only kept 1 clean sheet over the last 6 games. But that being said, I think with the fixtures that they have, I think clean sheets are coming. And obviously, Saliba being injured will hurt Arsenal's defence long term. But I just don't think with the fixtures that they have, it's going to be that significant. Gabriel is still a great option. He has had a lot of transfers in this week. And I think I would just go for him, especially for the fixtures that they have over the next 3 or 4. Wolves have conceded the most set-piece goals in the league this season, with 15 goals, and we know how good Arsenal are from their set pieces. They have been a little bit worse without Saka's delivery over the last few, but for the most part, they're still a threat from set pieces. And I think with Gabriel, I think you could be looking at a double-digit haul this week. You could be looking at a clean sheet and a goal, and then he'll probably get 3 bonus points as well if that happens. I get that 6 clean sheets is not great from the opening 22 games, but it's not awful either. And I think with the fixtures they do have coming up, I think those clean sheets are coming. Just to add to that, Wolves do have the worst expected goals in the league at home this season. So Wolves away probably is a really good opportunity for Arsenal to get a clean sheet in that game. And for that reason, I'm sticking with Arsenal double defence. City home obviously isn't great, but then you've got Leicester away, West Ham at home. They're 2 good fixtures for clean sheets as well. So yeah, I don't think there's any need to sell Arsenal defence this week. And if you're someone like me who has Gabriel and Timber, I don't think there's any reason not to play them. Okay, so let's talk about Kluivert on the back of his 22-pointer against Newcastle last week, scoring 3 goals and gaining an assist that takes his total for the season up to 10 goals and 3 assists in 17 starts. Got 0.52 expected goals per 90, 0.09 expected assists per 90, which are not bad stats for someone that costs 5.6 million. But, and there is a big but, a lot of his goal involvements come from penalties. He's got 6 penalties this season, and you just cannot. You can look at this two ways. You can look at it that Bournemouth are high energy, high press, so that for that reason they get in the box a lot, and that's why they've won a lot of penalties this season. I'm just not so sure. I think a lot of penalties are just one-off moments in games, and they're really hard to predict. That said, you have a penalty taker in your team. If that team wins a penalty and Kluivert's on the pitch, like he gets a return out of nowhere. So even though they've got Forest at home and Liverpool at home in the next couple of games, they're not great for an attacker. But all it takes is one moment, and all of a sudden he's on the penalty spot. He gets a goal, and he probably gets a bonus point as well from it. If we just bring up his fixtures long term, obviously Forest at home, Liverpool at home, not great for an attacker's point of view. But then it's Southampton away, Wolves at home, Brighton away, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Ipswich at home, West Ham away, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, United at home. I think you wouldn't look at a fixture from game week 25 to 34 and be worried too much if you had to play an attacker in that game. And the fact that he's on penalties, and the fact that Bournemouth have been so good for their expected goals this season, I think he probably is a buy and long-term hold. He's actually someone, you could probably see it on my screen now, that I have brought into my team this week. But that's because I funded a move to bring in Isak because I had Solanke. But I think double Bournemouth attack is not a bad way to go. With the amount of expected goals they get, they actually underperform their expected goals quite a lot. But I've done it. Maybe that is off the back of a 22-pointer and I'm just chasing points. Who knows? I'm not expecting many returns in the next two, but I think he is probably someone that I'm not going to need to transfer out until perhaps my next wildcard. I'm not sure when I want to use that yet. So, yeah, he's a good option. If you want to go for him, go for him. Okay, so Isak is another player on the long list of players that made me look stupid this season. He's got 8.85 expected goal involvements in the last 8 games. He's got 15 goals and 5 assists in 20 starts this season. And a few game weeks ago, what did I say? I said go for Jackson over Isak, and it's just made me look absolutely stupid. Jackson's been benched a couple of times. Isak's just continued to get double-digit hauls. And it's Southampton away this week, and you imagine there's another big haul coming for him. Southampton have the worst expected goals against in the league this season, and for that reason, I think he could be a good captain differential if you want to go against Salah. Now, just a note on his next 4 fixtures after that Southampton game. They are a lot tougher. I think Fulham at home, they've had a really good season. Man City away, that's obviously not easy. Nottingham Forest at home, not easy for an attacker. Liverpool away, obviously not easy for an attacker. Now, just like the Bournemouth game, there's every chance that in those tougher games he could blank. He's had really good fixtures in the fixtures that he's been getting these double-digit hauls. So, if you're not bringing him in this week, I probably wouldn't bring him in against that Fulham, in that Fulham at home game. I think, and if you're on wildcard, I probably wouldn't go for him. I'd probably go for Ollie Watkins. So if I just bring up Isak's fixtures, obviously you can see the next 5 there, but he's got West Ham away in 28, which is probably where the fixtures start to get good again. You've got Palace at home, Brentford at home, Leicester away, United at home. But the next 5, I just wouldn't handpick those. You would handpick Southampton away, but you would not want to play Fulham, City, Forest, or Liverpool right now. Whereas if I brought up Ollie Watkins, who, if I just find him, who's had 60,000 transfers in this week, he's 0.5 cheaper. Now, I run the risk of doing exactly what I did with Jackson, saying, go for Watkins, the fixtures are better. But they are better. Like West Ham at home, Wolves away, Ipswich at home. Chelsea at home is a little bit tougher, but then it's Palace away, Brentford away, which is good for an attacker. Obviously, then you get Liverpool at home, Brighton away. In fact, that's quite a good rotation. You could go for Ollie Watkins from West Ham to Brentford, and then after that, you could go for Isak when Villa's fixtures get a bit tougher. It's just an idea. But yeah, so I'm just playing devil's advocate there. Isak's a great option for Southampton away this week. But if you wanted to go a bit differential and try and chase some points, Ollie Watkins is has a lot lower ownership, and he's a good option as well this week. Now, you can't talk about FPL transfers this week without talking about Liverpool players for Ipswich at home and their double game week in game week 24. Now, if I was looking at Liverpool players, I'd obviously go for Alisson because he's got 15 goals and 5 assists this season. Obviously, I've not updated that graphic, so I apologise there. but that would be a great return for a goalkeeper. Now, a lot of people are looking at Liverpool defence. A lot of people are going for Trent because he's getting double-digit hauls now and he's done well throughout the season. To go alongside perhaps Van Dijk and Salah. I'm not so sure because you don't necessarily know. Liverpool have got a lot of fixtures coming up. They're going to need all their players fit, and I do think that there is a chance that Trent could get rotated. Trent hasn't been at full fitness this season. And I think maybe Slot might have that in the back of his mind. Perhaps when, I don't know, Bournemouth away and Everton away, that they're two tough fixtures really for physicality, I'd say. And for that reason, he might get rested in one of those games. And for that reason, I just want to go for the nailed-on player. And I think Alisson is that. Maybe I'm just boring going for the nailed-on double game week player, but Alisson is a good option, especially if you're on wildcard this week. He's an easy choice. Ipswich have the third worst expected goals away from home this season, so I think a clean sheet is highly likely in that game. And obviously they've just conceded 6 against City, so you'd imagine they probably won't be as attacking. They just want to park the bus and maybe not concede a lot of goals. I'd probably go for double Liverpool defence over double Liverpool attack. You just don't know who's going to start in those games. You don't know if Núñez is going to start following his 2 goals against Brentford. You don't know if it's going to be Diaz or Jota or Gakpo. You don't even know if Trent's going to start, and a lot of people are looking at him this week. But also about those fixtures, they're both physically demanding. Bournemouth just outrun so many teams, and then Everton just absolutely batter teams with their physicality. So there is a chance that Trent might get rested for one of those games because Liverpool, I know they're in a good position in the league and in the Champions League, but they are going to need their players throughout the rest of the season. They don't want to risk anyone. So I don't think Trent is free from rotation. And for that reason, I just go for Alisson and Van Dijk because you know they're both going to play. I think if I was going for 3 Liverpool players for their double game week, it's obviously Salah. And then I would go for Alisson and Van Dijk. But maybe that's just me being boring. Just a note on tripling up on Liverpool players. You've got to remember that you might want to use the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot. So if you want to go for Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah, you just got to keep that in mind that you need a transfer to take one of them out and then another transfer to bring Arne Slot in. So if you do want to triple up, you just got to bear that in mind. Personally, I won't be going for Arne Slot, so it's not a worry for me. But that's just because I'm chasing points. But if you're conserving points and you want to just go for a safe team that you know is going to do well, I think Arne Slot's not a bad option, so just keep that in mind. And just a side note, if you want to learn more about the assistant managership, I explain it all in this video here. So there are my FPL transfer tips for Gameweek23 from a guy that knows all about FPL. Let me know in the comments if you're considering bringing any of these players in this game week. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. Let's chase those green arrows, and I'll see you in the next one.